A massive meteor came through the Earth's atmosphere, created a sonic boom, and landed in Cape Cod Bay on May 30th, 2026. This episode of Cosmic Scene, we'll talk about the astrology of this event, the galactic significance, and I'm going to give you a little bit of the science behind what actually happened. I heard it. It occurred in my oceanic backyard, and I was doing some energy work on a client when the explosion happened, and I did hear it. And been getting some downloads since on what this was all about. And this is what I'm going to share in this episode. So stay tuned. You're going to learn a lot. And I'm going to give you some of my theories on what is actually happening galactically, astrologically, and cosmically. So stay tuned. Welcome to the episode on Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine about the massive meteor. And here's some of the information about it. Cape Cod Bay got activated, and all of the Massachusetts coast, all the way up and down the East Coast, was getting a galactic activation. On May 30th, 2026, the Massachusetts meteor event was one of the most significant outbursts over New England in recent years. We called it a double boom. It was a sonic double boom. I'm going to read you some things about this. It shook houses and rattled windows, and NASA has since confirmed that fragments, meteorite, has fallen in Cape Cod Bay. The actual location is 10 miles northeast of Sandwich, Mass., 12 miles southeast from Plymouth, and 15 miles southwest from Provincetown. And it occurred, my timing of when it occurred was 2:11 p.m. on May 30th, 2026. There's other conjectures. I've seen 2:20 and 2:06, but I have it at 2:11. And it was a meteor. It was approximately 5 feet and 5.6 metric tons, about 12,300 pounds. And the speed was about 42,000 miles per hour as it came into the atmosphere. So how powerful was it? NASA estimates it ranges from 230 tons of TNT to 300 tons of TNT. So that makes it 20 to 27 times greater than the Moab, or mother of all bombs, that happened. And it was only about 2% of the energy of Hiroshima. And yes, houses shook. And that there was a shock wave. I felt it. There was the sonic boom, and then there was some pressure waves, and many people felt it. So people are thinking that the meteorite that's actually in the bay, NASA's analysis, is that it's iron. And that is why people who want to go find it are using magnets to try to pull it out. So it is very shallow water there off the Cape, and people will recover using boats, sonar magnets, and dredging equipment. So let me share you my astrological viewpoint. It's extremely symbolic. It's a dramatic celestial event that is happening right before the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, which will be on June 9th. And it's also leading up to the Gemini new moon. But I'm going to share the chart, and we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the ramifications as far as galactic potentiality with this. So this is the chart off of Boston for the meteorite that came in on May 30th, 2026, 2:11 p.m. in Boston. And for those of you who know astrology, you'll see right away there was an exact moon in Sagittarius opposing Uranus opposition. And the sun was also up there. So what's Uranus? Uranus is unexpected. It's in the early degrees of Gemini, and it's was close enough to the sun, but it's that exact opposition to the Sagittarius moon, which, interesting enough, this chart for Boston has the rising at Libra at that time, meaning balance. But then all of a sudden, in the community, in the area, there's a Sagittarian event. Now, remember, Sagittarius rules the universe. It rules the cosmos, where Gemini is more our local area. The other fascinating thing about this is that moon in Sagittarius was also in a 60 degrees harmony with Pluto in Aquarius, trining Neptune in Aries. And we're seeing a precursor basically to what's coming in July of 2026, when Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and at that point Jupiter will join. We'll all be at 4 degrees air and fire: Leo, Aquarius, Aries, and Gemini. So this is a little bit of a precursor event, I think. And so I'm going to kind of go deeper into this. It's astrologically fascinating. But I think it's an archetypal wake-up call for people. Again, preparation for what's coming in July and beyond. And it's the collective attention to the heavens. And yes, this is beyond regular astrological. We're now talking about galactic astrology. And I do believe that this was a communication, and I have more theories on this. So stay tuned and listen. Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, video version. Check out my podcast on all major podcast platforms. The audio that's been released has been a podcast for 7 years now. And then on YouTube, the video version at Jill Jardine 2186. So let's continue. So this meteor deposited remnants into the Cape Cod Bay. So here's the fire of the meteor and then the water. There's the Cancerian energy of the water, ocean, intuition, emotional consciousness, and fire, the Aries, the Sag moon in harmony, the Neptune and moon in harmony. And so it's one of the most documented meteorite falls ever recorded in Massachusetts, thanks to satellite imagery, multiple radar stations, and dash cam. And again, I was pretty much, I was not an eyewitness, but I was a sentient witness. I felt it. It rocked the area for a while. And some people report that the skies were actually lit up. I was again doing energy work as a healer, psychic, and astrologer of many, many years. I was doing my craft as the Galactics tried to get a hold of us. So let's talk about this. Why was it Cape Cod Bay? Well, I did some research, and Cape Cod Bay, or Cape Cod, is also waking up as a galactic node. What? What does that mean? Well, the Giza Plateau is considered the Earth's throat chakra, a point of global communication and resonance. So Cape Cod, with its coastal position and historic significance, remember, this is right off the coast where the Puritans landed in Plymouth. It was very close, 15 miles south of Plymouth. So here we are. It's not a coincidence that those early explorers ended up here. There's something about the grid. I mean, those of you who know all about ley lines of the Earth and the Earth's grids, which there's the old overlay of ley lines, and then there's new ones formulating. So like the Giza Plateau is one of the old ones. And now Cape Cod is emerging as a secondary harmony node, a place where galactic messages can land and be received by those who are energetically open. And boy, did I get downloads. And that's why I'm making this video. There's a lot happening. There's awakenings. I do think this is contact from universal or cosmic consciousness, and that it's starting right here in America's birthplace and other places all over, all over the US. Sedona and Mount Shasta and the Hawaiian Islands have always been honored as being the portals or the vortex points of this country. And meanwhile, then there's many, many around the world. But the fact that this one got activated, again, I'm all excited because it's in my backyard, a lifelong astrologer psychic, and I can feel that people are getting upgrades. And what I have gotten from people in the past week since it occurred, that people are feeling very, very elevated, or they are feeling like all kinds of physical body things coming to the surface, like like amplified compared to what they were. So it's a combination of both as we get upgrades. And again, it's not just specific to this area, but it's actually activating, I believe, the whole East Coast of the United States. So what I would describe this as, the meteorite landing is sort of like a physical anchor. It's anchored. It's like literally anchored, like throwing an anchor down to the bottom of Cape Cod Bay. It's anchored like a tuning fork, sending a shockwave through our local field that can trigger memory, awareness, or synchronicity in sensitive individuals. And that's another keynote that I've been getting from clients and people, that they've been having a lot of crazy synchronicities happening in the past week. And I think the sports teams in Boston have done pretty good too in this past week. So then I want to talk about my friends, the Pleiadians, the Galactics. I don't call the cosmic beings, extraterrestrials. They told me they don't like that, ET. So I like to call them the Galactics. And so have, some of my teachers, such as Barbara Hand-Clow, I believe, referred to the Pleiadians as Galactics back in the day when I was studying with her. But I do believe this is contact from the Pleiadians. And as I'm giving this transmission right now, my heart is feeling like it's bursting open. The Pleiadians work with the heart chakra. Woo! And so as I'm delivering this transmission from close to the Cape Cod Bay where the meteor is, I'm being told that we have to remember that there's so many benevolent beings. I think that's why they don't like to be called ETs, because that has some negative connotations throughout history and through movies and stuff. So the Galactics are benevolent beings, such as the Pleiadians, who have affected human evolution for over 100,000 years. And take it or leave it. The proof through certain individuals is there, and they're coming out of the woodwork these days. So another thing about the Pleiadian energy and even the galactic, when things are happening, it activates our light DNA. So we have our DNA from our lineage, like our ancestral or familial lineage, but there's also theories out there of our galactic light DNA. There's views that there's 22, 44 strands. Believe what you want, but I do theorize that these events are going to be more of these meteorite or other types of galactic activations, communications, especially leading up to July and in July and beyond, as I said. So we can think of this in a positive way. We're getting our light DNA activated. There's a lot of information about that out there on YouTube and other sources, but it's basically waking up latent properties. In Vedic teachings, we call them siddhis, Siddhis, or spiritual magical abilities such as clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognitive, empathy, intuition, the ability to have spontaneous healing, the ability to do spontaneous transmission of healing and blessings, which is, working with gurus from India in Sanskrit mantra teachings. We do know that those things happen. And if you want more information on that, check out my book, Sacred Sound Formulas to Awaken the Modern Mind, where I talk about the siddhis in depth and how the mantras, the Sanskrit, can activate them. And the other thing, the water, I can't get over the water metaphor of it's amazing. If it had landed on land, there could have been a lot of damage, obviously, to people and property. And so here's the benevolence again of how this happened, was that it was in water. It landed in a container of the Cape Cod Bay, and it's there kind of hanging out right now, emitting these frequencies. But the water flowing like water, and the fact that we're having this big Venus Cancer conjunction coming up on June 9th, it's this whole thing about we have to process our emotions before we activate our higher or our light body. The emotions and the physicality are the denser frequencies, if you will, that we have to process through in order to activate the air and fire. Air being like higher mental abilities in astrology, and fire, the spiritual creative. So we can't spiritually bypass. And we're seeing this, the water, fire coming into the water. What a great metaphor with the astrology. So when we're talking about galactics, specifically Pleiadians, they communicate through things like synchronicity, energetic downloads, things we can feel in our body, reminding that the Earth is part of the greater galactic field, and that I think they are working with us for benevolence. And so when we realize we're galactic citizens and that we're all inhabitants here of planet Earth, some of the, what shall we say, the political landscapes of what's happening in different countries becomes less. And I think this is the keynote for these times with Pluto and Aquarius, that we're all in it together. We're all one. And now we're being reminded that we have these benevolent beings of higher consciousness working with us. They've always been there. But for those who want to accept that It's helping us remember our galactic origins, as did indigenous tribes always remember that they were star people and that they came from the stars. So I think there's something for all of us to remember that and then, work accordingly. So the Pleiades is a star cluster. I did do a previous podcast on Alcyon when we had the Alcyon portal open in May. And so here they are a couple weeks later. They gave us this little reminder. And so the Pleiadian star clusters, known as the Seven Sisters, is one that people believe is higher vibrational beings of the fifth dimension, of a higher consciousness. As I said earlier, they come from a love vibration. They can shape light and they work with light, sound frequencies. They're more holistic and artistic in body, mind, soul. And there are let's say there are elder siblings who want to teach us to wake up. And they work with the Galactic Federation, which is a whole nother thing that I'll do another video on. But I think that I want to share this message about the meteor landing in Cape Cod. It could be a field activation. So it's a signal to all of us in this area and beyond to remember who we truly are on a soul level. Open our throat chakra. That's how we receive and transmit. To speak your truth. I'm doing a transmission right now. Embrace the diversity of human experience. We're all one. We're all part of a galactic unity, and get ready to prepare for your next level of consciousness. And the whole concept that's been around for a long time about the activation of the light body, the activation of the DNA, it's a real thing, and it's happening now. Stay tuned to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine for more of these downloads, and follow me on YouTube at Jill Jardine 2186, on TikTok, Instagram, Cosmic Scene. Sending you healing vibrations through the quantum field.